Hello and welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. My name is Colette and I'm here today to do a reading for this new moon in Libra, which has taken place on the 25th of sorry, my voice has gone a bit croaky, 25th of September, and it happened at 22:54, so 6 minutes to 11 p.m. at 2 degrees and 54, I think, 56 possibly minutes. Let me just check that out because it's very similar to the time itself, 54. So no, sorry, 48 minutes. So I was going to do this yesterday. I don't know if anybody has watched my other video that I put out for the new moon, the tarot part of the two videos that I do. But my daughter came home from work and we ended up chatting and having something to eat, and by the time we'd finished all that, it was a bit late, so I decided that I would leave it until today. So that's why, oh, sorry about this, that's why this is coming out a bit later again. So the new moon in Libra, we're going to start with the Moonology cards like I always do. I've also put my light on this side today, so I don't know if it's going to make any difference. I can still see it kind of glaring in my glasses, which is a bit annoying to say the least. Just see if I can adjust that a wee bit. I'll move over slightly, maybe that's better. So the new moon energy is all about a new start. If you set intentions, then it's about setting an intention around the sorry, my brain's all over the place. Mercury is still retrograde, so I'm going to use that as an excuse like I did yesterday when I was doing my tarot reading. It's the 7th house of partnerships, relationships, but it will fall for everybody in a different place, but this is the collective energy, and I will explain more about that in the actual reading. So new moon energy, new start, initiation of something, and it's cardinal energy. So it's saying be bold and make the first move. Cardinal energy is very much about movement, initiating, starting something, beginnings. But because the moon is only at 2 degrees and 48 minutes, more or less 3 degrees, it's kind of also going back into the mutable energy of Virgo as well. So we still have this very changeable energy. So we've got this fast moving, fast paced cardinal energy that wants to get things started and wants to kind of bring in the new energy. And then we've also got this mutable energy, which is all about kind of like things being, I tend to think of it as things still being in flux. Nothing is set in stone, as it says here, so things are still kind of being worked through. But there could also be this kind of tendency to jump ahead, because the cardinal energy, as I said, it wants to kind of get things going. So the two energies together are very kind of high energy, high octane kind of energies, because there's no fixed energy there to kind of hold it down, so to speak. And we have it in the house of Libra, as I was saying. It's the house of relationships, and it says a new romantic cycle begins. Relationships, partnerships as well, business partnerships. But it's also about balance and harmony and peace as well, because it's not going to be for everybody that a new romantic cycle happens. So it can also be about finding that balance and that peace within yourself, or preparing yourself for something new to come into your life at this time. And so while I was speaking earlier, I was shuffling these cards here, and this is the card that we got today. for the overall energy. Again, I kind of asked which cards were best for me to use for this particular reading, and this is what I got. And this is called Chakrasamvra, or it's the Wheel, which actually turned up yesterday in the Wheel of Fortune in the tarot reading, and it's been actually mulling around in my mind, and it's kind of like the Wheel of Fortune is also the wheel of life. It is the wheel of Dharma in Buddhist terms, the wheel of truth that we all cycle round and round and round many lifetimes. But this is actually talking about the wheel of supreme bliss is an icon of an enlightened mind. Desire and wrath are transformed into rapturous compassion. At the center, the Sacred Father and Mother manifest as your mind, body and spirit, thus making this material world a reality. Male and female, wisdom and compassion, emptiness and skillful means aspire to live within the creative life force beyond hopes, desires, preferences and fears. There is no separation between self and other. Turn timid responses into a radical engagement with life. Look inside you. You are the cosmos of bliss, manifesting in the harmony of the universe. And it is actually the card of sacred union as well, which is quite fitting. Very fitting, very apt, because Libra is all about the balance of the masculine and the feminine in particular. Relationships, as I was saying, partnerships, the balance between the two energies, the masculine driving force and the feminine receptive, nurturing, compassionate force. So this reading that I'm doing here, for those of you who don't know how I do my readings, what I do is I intuitively interpret the astrology, how I'm feeling about the astrology, how it feels to me on a personal basis, and then I write it down and I read it off of my laptop because there's a lot to remember. And so this particular reading I'm calling New Moon in Libra, Tipping of the Scales. And the divine masculine sun energy conjuncts the divine feminine moon energy during the time of a new moon. So that's when the two of them come together at the same degree. So this new moon is taking place on the 25th of September at 22 hours 54 UK time, which will be different in other parts of the world depending on your personal location. So check out where you are at the time. It will be occurring in the Venus-ruled harmonizing, peacemaking, balancing cardinal air sign of Libra at the early 02 degrees 48 minutes or almost 3 degrees. Probably as I go through the reading, if I mention it, I will call it 3 degrees rather than the 2 minutes, so, or 2 degrees should I say. So which means it will also be another outer sign new moon, bridging the energy between the later degrees of the mutable signs, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, Gemini, as well as the early degrees of the cardinal signs, Libra, Capricorn, Aries and Cancer. If you have anything from the 08 to 0 degrees of any of the cardinal signs, or the 28 to 29 degrees 59 minutes of the mutable signs, you will be feeling this new moon most significantly within your closest partnerships in your life. Partnerships, relationships. Again, that could also be business rather than just intimate relationships. So check out where the 08 degrees Libra, 28 degrees Virgo fall for you in regard to your house placement. And if you don't know what I mean by that, there is in the description box down below a link for a free astrological charts to find out your own birth chart. You just need your date, time and place of birth, and it will come up with your particular print of the time when you were born, what the planets were doing, and it can help to give you a bigger understanding and a bigger picture of what's taking place in the world today and why it's affecting you the way it does on a personal basis. So, which means that this new moon will also be falling in a, wherever the 3 degrees of Libra falls for you. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be in the 7th house. It could be in any of the houses. So it will have a different kind of energy about it on a personal basis. So this time for the collective, it includes both the 7th house of love, romance, marriage, fairness and equality. It also covers justice, compromise and diplomacy, along with all things legal, which is why it includes divorce and business matters. The 6th house of Virgo is the house of improving ourselves through taking care of both our bodies and our mind, as the two are intrinsically linked. And this new moon is saying we are not done with this energy yet. Maybe this is a time for us to analyse and scrutinise how healthy or unhealthy our personal partnerships, relationships actually are. New moons are a time of starting something fresh, and Cardinal Libra being an air sign, this is about initiating something and breathing new life into it. This new moon is conjunct Venus, the ruler of Libra. She is now at 25 degrees 44, almost 26 degrees of Virgo. The planet of love, romance, beauty, values and our self-worth has moved super fast through Virgo and will be entering Libra on the 29th of September. During this new moon, which actually is today, oh no, the 29th, sorry, I thought it said the 26th. See, it's Mercury retrograde again. It's been really messing with my head over the last few days. So during this new moon, Venus is conjunct a retrograde Mercury at 27 degrees 32 minutes of the Maiden, who is also under the sun and the moon's orb of influence. So this is connecting us with a more reflected view of what was taking place in our lives and the world around us from August the 21st, when Mercury first entered his shadow at 24 degrees and 13 minutes, which is where he will station direct on the 1st of October. As Mercury began his retrograde in the 7th house of personal partnerships, relationships, this is very much what this retrograde period is being themed around, which is adding an extra dimension at the time of this new moon, which is also conjunct the 8-degree mark where Mercury stationed retrograde on the 9th of September. This also happens to be the same degree that Makemake stationed at a few months back. So this area of Libra has been receiving a lot of attention recently. And when Mercury moves into forward motion again from around the 2nd of October up until he leaves his shadow on the 17th, some partnerships or relationships that looked like they were on their last legs could, with a lot of straight and honest communication, be given a new lease of life. However, with the Sun, Moon, Mercury and Venus all opposing Jupiter at 3 degrees 48 minutes, so that's just literally a degree between them, and Jupiter is retrograde in Aries, and we also have Neptune at 23 degrees 46 retrograde in Pisces. Jupiter is also still conjunct Salacia at 7 degrees 39 minutes as well, retrograde, and they are all opposing the Sun and the Moon. So this is not a time to be hiding behind a false narrative or persona, but to come clean on any deception, to be completely honest. This is a time to express any secrets you have not yet revealed to whoever you are involved with in business dealings or in personal relationships. Any emotions that have been kept hidden are going to want to rise to the surface, even if the compunction is to remain silent. The more truthful we are with others, the ultimately more truthful we are being with ourselves. As both the Sun and Moon are also conjunct Makemake, the Kuiper Belt object, at 8 degrees 12 minutes, that works through the 5D energy of bringing cosmic law and order into balance. And by being a Kuiper Belt object basically means that it's way out, past Saturn, past Neptune, in an area that's known as the Kuiper Belt. And so it's working on a completely different energy of a more higher frequency, which means that I actually also think that anything actually beyond Saturn is doing that. So, but the further out you go, the more kind of out there in the universe energy that we're dealing with. And Makemake is the cosmic law and order. So he's bringing into balance, and also kind of like karmic justice. He's bringing karmic justice to situations that are beyond our control, and he is in the sign of Libra at this time as well. So we're seeing a lot of things based around lawsuits and legalities and things that are, I want to say, kind of weighed up in the balance at this time as well. But I will talk a bit more about that in a bit. So yeah, Makemake deals with situations that are beyond our control. It's like they are bigger than us, karmically. So Makemake is opposing Jupiter, who is magnifying and expanding on all this energy, and he is the planet of justice, truth, freedom, liberation, and he often comes with surprising benevolent outcomes. He also has Silesia on one side of him and Neptune on the other side, and Neptune and Silesia are husband and wife. So this husband and wife team are helping to bring what's been hidden in the deeper parts of our subconscious vault of the emotional realm into the light for full awareness and forgiveness of the self and the other. I also feel that whether we go through this process willingly or not, by surrendering to the greater energies at play here, the outcome will be the same, only less sabotaging and less painful if we stop trying to run or hide from it. So we can make it an easier process by working with the energies, or we can make it a lot harder by fighting against these energies, because it is an opposition. So there is that kind of balance there, that choice in itself between, do we do this easily or do we make it harder? So Jupiter in Aries is saying we need to find our inner courage and bravery with belief in ourselves to face the truth, even if the truth is not the person we believed ourselves to be. So I'm just going to have a quick slurp of my chaga coffee, because my throat is definitely feeling as though it needs something. It's delicious. It's chaga, turmeric, cinnamon and a little bit of nutmeg all mixed in there together. Very tasty. So Pluto is involved in this as well. So Pluto's at 26 degrees 9 minutes of Capricorn, also retrograde, and he is trine the Sun, the Moon, Mercury and Venus, while also being sextile Neptune. And Pluto is also still square to Eris as well, so we've still got that feisty female warrioress energy that's kicking in and kind of kicking things up and making things a bit more chaotic and kind of pushing us to break free, if you like, from the hold of the Capricorn energy with this Pluto square. But with this sextile with Neptune as well, that Pluto's been in for quite some time now, and it's going to continue for a while longer. It kind of means, I get the feeling that all of this energy combined is kind of saying that, you know, this honest, open communication in our partnerships and relationships kind of could go either way. It's like, in many ways, kind of saying, don't have expectations about it. Don't kind of think that because you are open and honest that it's going to be an easy ride, so to speak. Don't have expectations, because Pluto is the planet of creative destruction, so creation and destruction. So he can kind of destroy, and yet at the same time through that destruction comes something transformed, something new, which doesn't necessarily have to be the same relationship or partnership. So he also, of course, reminds us that everything is impermanent as well, and therefore open to change in our life, especially at a time when we have so many energies in mutable and cardinal signs. Like I was saying, kind of everything's kind of up in the air at this time as well, so there's no definites. So Pluto is at this time getting ready to slow down and station direct, which he will do on the 8th of October, still trine Mercury, but also opposing Black Moon Lilith the day before the full moon in Aries. So the full moon's going to happen on the 9th of October. And he will still be trining Mercury at the time that he does this as well, and but also opposing Black Moon Lilith. So Black Moon Lilith is also connected, not Black Moon Lilith, sorry. There's another energy that I've spoken about before, and it's also playing its role in the background at the early stages of Capricorn, is the Center Pholos at 4 degrees and 15 minutes. So he's also connecting with this new moon energy. He's square all of this new moon energy with the sun and the moon. And of course also with Jupiter in early Aries as well. So all of these three cardinal signs are creating a powerful T-square, and Pholos is at the center. Again, he has been at the center of T-squares for a while now, but because the and then we had a bit of a break, but now that the sun and the moon are in Libra, he's kind of brought in that energy again, and he's kind of the center, the focus of these energies. So he's also the release point of the opposition between the Libra energy and the Aries energy. He's the release point, that Capricorn determination energy, if you like. But I also feel that that this is going to kind of have us weighing up everything that's in the balance and kind of making us aware of any toxic and poisonous and unhealthy aspects that are within our partnerships and relationships that we are involved in, and being square with Make as well, that those that are kind of beyond repair, that there is no way of of putting new life into them, of breathing that new life into them, or improving them in any way. Those relationships are going to be kind of heading toward the divorce courts, so to speak, in order to gain some kind of retribution and a feeling of justice. So all of this new moon energy is taking place 2 days after the autumn equinox, which happened on the 23rd of September. And that was when the sun traversed the 0°00 point of the scales, setting up the world stage for what I believe personally is going to be the biggest divorces our generations have ever witnessed. And these are political divorces that I'm talking about here. The United States, the European Union and Ukraine are all on the verge of separation from within. Everything that I've just spoken about on a personal level of partnerships, relationships, can be applied on a much larger scale to political parties and countries, especially at a time when the 0°00 point of Aries is also being conjunct by Jupiter. So that's really kind of highlighting this axis mundi, this really important cardinal point of the Libra Aries 0 points. And of course they are also 0 Cancer and 0 Capricorn as well. And of course we do have Pholus there at 4 degrees as well. So Pholus is also connecting to that cardinal energy. And Pholus is all about toxins, poisons, fast moving, death of cells. So I kind of feel as though that is going to kind of infiltrate its way in, if you like. It's kind of going to work through into these situations, like I was saying, into these situations between, like, in the United States and the European Union and Ukraine. And it's almost like death of the cells. It's like the whatever doesn't work, whatever's not working is just going to die in a way, if you think of it in those kind of terms. It doesn't necessarily, I'm not necessarily saying that there's going to be mass wars or anything like that. I'm just saying that kind of on a political level, there's going to be an awareness of like a poison or toxic, or like, if you think of it like a pussy wound or something. But it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. It's like Pholus represents that like you can't stop it. Once it starts, you can't stop it kind of energy. Quick action energy. So Pholus is also connecting to this as well. So this is adding another intense level to everything, sitting upon the very start of the zodiac cycle. And at 0 degrees and 30 minutes, and therefore conjunct Jupiter, square Pholus, opposing the Sun, the Moon and Mercury, is a trans-Neptunian object, another Kuiper Belt object that is way beyond our physical 3D reality. And this is an asteroid named Manway. And Manway has a 288-year orbit. And for any Tolkien fans out there, you may already be familiar with the name Manway, as he's also known as the Elder King. So in mythology, Manway is most likened to Zeus, Jupiter, as both are associated with eagles and both are known as sky gods as well. So we've got like a double dose of Jupiter kind of partnerships, relationships under intense focus and scrutiny at this time, with the pressure building right now for situations to come clean and truth to be revealed and to stand in integrity. Jupiter rules the knowledge of law and the philosophy behind it, as well as the judges that interpret the law. And in law, there is an expression about putting your thumb on the scales so as to tip it in your favour, a corrupt practice that makes a mockery of the justice system itself, which is being seen by many as the injustice system it has now become. So over this period, the collective is going to experience a lot of questions being asked around the dirty tactics being played out on the world stage for all to see, as criminals are set free and victims are locked up, which involves a lot of tipping of the scales in a certain direction. Manwë, however, has been going over and back over this very important degree of the zodiac sign, of the zodiac, sorry, since March. So that's at 000 minutes of Aries, the very, very beginning, very start of something. And in the Tolkien mythology, Manwë was known as a kind, fair and compassionate ruler, the name itself meaning blessed one. He was lacking in the will and desire for personal power, his greatest flaw being unable to see evil, even in his own brother Morgoth, which almost saw the complete downfall of Middle-earth after Manwë had released him from the chains that had held him for 3 years. Morgoth's only drive was the destruction of all things that had been created purely and divinely by his own creator, the omniscient and omnipotent, or omnipotent, however you prefer to say it, Eru Iluvata. So, like the energy Eru Iluvata is kind of like the God, divine creator energy of all, and so he created from his mind these two beings, one being Manwë and one being Morgoth, so they were like brothers. So we have that eternal kind of duality story that runs through not only the Tolkien legends, but like life itself as well, which is that, you know, good versus evil, light versus darkness, right versus wrong, male versus female, freedom versus tyranny. And what's really interesting is that the new series, The Rings of Power, for those of you who have Netflix and have been watching it, first started coming into our awareness and part of our psyche from around late January, early February, just as Manwë started making his connection with the 0 degree axis Monday point of cardinal Aries. And so I went online to kind of look up when did it first kind of start, when did they first start advertising it, and the first one that I could find was February of this year. So that kind of fits in with all that kind of like Manwë being on that point, that 0 point, and kind of coming into our psyche with the Rings of Power like just being advertised at that time. So is that coincidence, or it's like, which, you know, is it conspiracy? Is it coincidence? Is it kind of all thought through? And there's a kind of interesting connection there. But if you've watched any of my other videos, I also talk about how when Pholus was first discovered as well, certain words appeared. And I'm trying to remember, but you know what my brain's like at the moment, especially with this Mercury retrograde, and the word ectopic keeps coming into my brain, but it's not that at all. So, but it's the word that means death of the cells, like very fast, and it appeared in all the kind of medical journals, like almost like overnight. All these medical journals were suddenly talking about this particular action that happens within the cells to do with the blood, because it is a blood toxin poison that killed Pholos, because he was killed by an arrow that had been dipped in the Medusa, the evil Medusa, snake, gorgon-headed Medusa creature. So anyway, back to this. I just found it really interesting that that connection was there, and also the connection with Pholos as well. So there is definitely something that happens in the psyche, that we kind of become aware of something before it actually arrives, so to speak, like the frequencies being sent out prior, and we kind of pick up on it. Anyway, where are we? So Manwë has been conjunct this point since March, turning retrograde in July after having reached 0 degrees 35 minutes of Aries, and he will be heading back into Pisces around the end of the year and will reach 29 degrees. He and Jupiter will cross paths 3 times, as Jupiter was stationed at 28 degrees of the Fishes, and because he moves faster than Manwë, Jupiter only takes 12 years to circle our star rather than 288 years. Big difference. They will remain together until 2023. So that will be for the rest of this year and into 2023. I'm not exactly when they will part company, but Jupiter will obviously part company from Manwë. So Manwë will stay in the earlier stages of Aries a lot longer. But Jupiter will have reached 29 degrees at the same time that Manwë stations in mid-December as well. So that's also something to be aware of at this time as well. Because that's really going to kind of highlight this energy, this symbolic energy of Manwë. And for me, it's kind of indicative of not being able to, or unwilling to, recognize that the evils that exist in the world around us. And because of this blindness or blinkered state of being, evil is able to thrive and plot in the background until it unleashes its full horrors and its vision of the future onto an unsuspecting world. However, somehow, at the last minute, when all seems lost, something surprising happens. Some good fortune that no one was expecting saves the day. Jupiter is the king of surprises, good omens, good luck, and good fortune. And Manwë has a very similar energy. Both of them are finishing out their cycles in Pisces, throat's going again, and heading into a whole new beginning in the sign of the initiating energy of the courageous warrior, just as we too are leaving the Piscean era behind. So, talking of courageous warrior energy, let's have another quick slurp of my tea. Oh, sorry about that. Mars is at 19 degrees 13 minutes of Gemini, and he is in a tight trine with Saturn, who's at 19 degrees and 11 minutes. So he's too retrograde in Aquarius, or Saturn is retrograde in Aquarius, and Mars hasn't quite got to that point, but he's heading in that direction. He's going to be retrograding at the end of October, I think it is. So he's trining Saturn, and he's square to Neptune as well. Neptune's at 23 degrees 46, also retrograde in Pisces. So Venus in Virgo is at 25 degrees 44 minutes, so almost 26 degrees, and she too is connecting with Neptune with an opposition, and she is also making a trine with Pluto at 26 degrees and 9 minutes retrograde of Capricorn. So here we have both the malefics in trines, which will make things a little easier, because when you're dealing with the malefics, you're always working through adverse situations, things that are hard lessons, I suppose, in some ways, difficult lessons, but it's kind of large scale lessons, because these outer planets deal with things on a much more longer period of time, even though they do affect us individually, but they also affect us in much kind of longer lasting periods of time, because they move so slowly. So they kind of affect generations rather than just individuals. But both Mars and Venus, of course, are both very inner personal energies. But we need to be aware that Mars in Gemini is still out of bounds and still kind of feeling argumentative, rebellious with his words as well as his actions. He's a bit reckless. He's not ready or willing to listen or learn from reasonable communication. And he's generally wanting to go against the grain. He's generally wanting to whatever. He's kind of being very contrary, I suppose, at the moment. And he's trine with Saturn in fixed Aquarius. So this could also bring out some really stubborn streaks in people, not wanting to back down from situations that they have very strong connections to. So this could also play out again on the world stage of like somebody calling somebody out about something, but doing it in a way that's logical and makes sense, but at the same time somebody else is kind of so connected to what they're doing or their belief in something at that time that they're not willing to look at any other kind of argument, any other options at this time. And that's kind of when things can get out of hand very easily, very quickly. So Venus, the ruler of this new moon, is also trine to Pluto. And Venus is just looking for some kind of closure. She wants an ending. She wants to transform things, to kind of make things easy. Venus likes things to be pleasant, and kind of she's a sign of beauty and a kind of gentleness. And in Virgo, she's just going to want to do this kind of, she wants it done gracefully, kind of with finesse, and definitely without any fuss or mess to clear up after. So Venus and Mars have just come off of an extremely intense square with each other on the 24th of September, so literally kind of 24 hours before the new moon, which was highlighting everything to do with our personal partnerships and relationships, of course. So this has seen the realm of personal relationships experiencing some testing times. And I spoke about that in my last video, how that energy was kind of very clashing. Again, very argumentative. It is also a very sexual energy as well, so there could have been strong attraction, but it wasn't the way to solve any of the problems, and in fact probably could have made things even worse. So so there could be a lot of hurt feelings at this time as well, a lot of emotional trauma. So both Mars were in that 90-degree challenging square with Venus. So sorry, now both Mars in a 90-degree challenging square and Venus in a 180-degree opposition are both connecting with a planet of deeper mystery, Neptune. So this could give us moments of strong confusion and stress, leading us to doubt ourselves, our abilities, to trust in our own knowing, our purpose, particularly when it comes to our partnerships and relationships. And because we've just come off of that challenging, difficult square energy, and Venus is now opposing Neptune, which is the planet of mystery, the unknown. There could be kind of these strong feelings of what actually is going on here. What is it that I'm feeling? Am I feeling what I'm feeling? Is it actually right? Or am I just kind of wanting it to be this way? Like, if you're still really attracted to somebody, we can kind of make ourselves believe that something is different to how it actually is here. So there could be a lot of kind of confusion around what we believe to be true as opposed to what actually is true. So Neptune is also trine Black Moon Lilith at 18 degrees and 17 minutes, and they are both making a trine with the South Node at 15 degrees 20 minutes in Scorpio. So when Black Moon Lilith moves through any sign, she shows us the shadow energy of that sign. All those things that are taboo, that are kept hidden in the dark. Scorpio is another secretive energy that also deals with the taboo and things that are not accepted in normal society, that cross the line of decency. So all of this energy is very deep, dark and mysterious, really. Neptune, Black Moon Lilith, and South Node, all very kind of like, the South Node is what we need to let go of, but in Scorpio it is that energy of that mystery. It can be quite a revengeful energy, Scorpio. It likes to get its own back on situations, so it feels that it's been made to possibly look stupid, or what am I getting here? I often call Scorpio, for me, the sign of Scorpio, I often call it the emotional graveyard. So it's kind of where all that ickiness is. And all of this kind of feels like that. It feels like there's a lot of kind of dark, shadow, icky stuff that needs to be kind of dealt with and released, because the South Node, which is connected to our past, is very much involved with this energy in the Scorpio. And so this has everything to do with sex, power, corruption, and as I was saying, revenge. Also, whenever the South Node, whichever energy the South Node is connected to, is what we need to let go at that time. So that's the energy at this time that we're really needing to release, and power as well, because Scorpio is all about power, and he often gets power through corruption, through sex, through manipulation as well. That can be another strong energy of Scorpio. So this is the karmic fated energy we are needing to let go. But first we need to be willing to see and acknowledge it, because until we do so, it remains in the darkness, growing like the dark evil of Morgoth did, out of sight and out of mind. So this scorpionic energy is the accumulated dredges of all that has not been emotionally recognised nor dealt with fully. Cancer is also a sign that has past memories attached to it. Cancer is known as the house of our emotional roots. It also deals with sentimentality, holding on to things that are done, past the best, kind of thing. Cancer is known as the house of our emotional roots and the sign that represents the mother and childhood. So here we are being confronted with not only memories of our own mother, but also the collective idea of motherhood itself. And what even is a woman, which I've spoken about before, let alone a mother. So the traditional family of mother, father, and the gender definitions are being blurred and challenged like we have never experienced before. And this is kind of a Neptune thing as well, the blurring of the edges, because Neptune doesn't have any edges. Neptune is nebulous. It just kind of goes on. If you think of Neptune being like a huge ocean, it's kind of like it just like you can just be on that ocean for weeks, months in a small boat, with no horizon in sight, no boundaries in sight, just as far as the eye can see. So there's this kind of aspect there to that as well, of blurring and changing things. And so what we're losing here is the wisdom and the knowledge that is contained within the idea of the feminine being the receptive and nurturing, and the womb being the vessel that holds and brings forth new life. And it's being distorted very much amongst the progressive scientists' view that not only can the masculine bleed without a uterus or lining to shed, but they can, according to modern science now, give birth through their penis. A fact that is being taught in all nursing colleges here in the UK. And so that's a fact, quote, in quotes. So Black Moon, Lilith, trine the South Node, and Neptune in the 12th house of our unseen enemy is bringing a huge amount of emotion from both sides of the spectrum on these issues to the surface. In the US, mothers are uniting against their children, being given lessons on graphic sex education from as young as 4 years, while transgender men invade their classrooms to show them how to become drag queens as a profession. Something that was once for adult entertainment only has taken over the importance of children's basic education. And so that's very much the kind of Black Moon Lilith in Cancer that we're kind of having to deal with at this time. It's like the alternative, it's like the shadow side of the feminine energy. So this is an energy of not only what is being seen here, but also what is not being shown. What are we not seeing? Because there's a lot now that is kind of in our faces, so to speak, but there's also a lot still that is hidden. And so if we can think about what it is that we are seeing and how horrific a lot of that is, it's like, what else is there yet to be coming out? What is yet to be revealed? And there is something here about being caught up in the fake, unreal, and false existence of life. So energetically, what is being formed here between these three energies, all in sensitive, feeling, intuitive water signs, is a powerful, emotional, grand water trine. So we may find ourselves feeling overwhelmed by all of this as more and more information leaks out. There is also a danger of feeling like we are being sucked under and trying to keep our heads above the water and stay afloat. Trines are an energy of going with the flow, which can feel as though we are just going from one point of this 120-degree triangle to the next in a continuous fashion. And we don't necessarily find a solution or get anywhere fast, as there is nothing to challenge it here. However, saying that, Black Moon Lilith and Neptune are both sextile with Uranus at 18 degrees 30 minutes retrograde in fixed Earth sign Taurus, who is also opposing the South Node. So the mover and shaker has been doing exactly that, both in the physical world with all the earthquakes we've seen in Mexico recently, and in the political world, not to mention the end of an era. We'll also say as well that all of these hurricanes that have been happening, there's been some horrendous hurricanes in, I think it's Nova Scotia, Canada, and I think Florida as well at this time is suffering from them. There's huge upheavals when it comes to the weather, and of course Uranus also controls the weather. It's to do with electricity, Uranus as well. So and electricity plays a massive part in the universe itself. I mean, I personally am a electric universe believer. I believe that it is all electric and all works through electricity and magnetism, and that is very much this Uranus energy. So with Uranus being highlighted hugely at this time in Taurus, fixed Earth, literally our world, so to speak, the Taurian energy, because it's all about our resources, survival, instinct, that kind of thing is very Taurian. So when you've got this mover and shaker Uranus energy, it's going to change things up so much. I mean, it's just huge, massive amounts of change, because Uranus is always thinking about the future. He's always looking for a better outcome in the future. But we do have to be careful, because Uranus also does have a hive mind mentality to it as well, which we are also seeing being kind of tried to be brought in at this time with all this talk about the Great Reset and transhumanism. That is all very Uranian energy, but it doesn't mean that it's the right kind of Uranus energy, because the stuff that they should be releasing and giving to us, which would really improve all of our lives, is the stuff that they want to keep back, because that's not going to control us, that's going to set us free, which basically is what Uranus is wanting to happen anyway. So where were we? I went off into that little rant there. So yes, so in the political world, not to mention the end of an era as well, because we've just had the passing of the 96-year-old Taurian monarch, that just about everyone alive has been aware of her presence, especially on the second house ruled Taurus monetary system of the UK. Of course, the Queen's head has always been on our money, and money is very much a second house ruled theme, and that's of course where Uranus is making some of the biggest changes as well at this time. So we can expect to see more fireworks, shifting and radical changes on the political landscape, and much more division as Saturn, the traditionalist and champion of all things status quo and establishment created, continues to square off with not only the North and South node, but Uranus as well. So this is creating a T-square within 3 of the 4 fixed signs, with the 11th house of Aquarius, the sign of we the people, social connections, friendships, the internet, the collective, the individual within the community, grassroots, visionaries, as well as the hive mind, as I was talking about just then. And then we also have the 8th house of Scorpio, the sign of birth, death, sex, power, taxes over other people's money, transformation, usually experienced through some kind of emotional trauma, as well as the ability to create or destroy. Again, it's that energy of impermanence. So last but not the least is the 2nd house of Taurus, the sign of values, resources, our personal possessions, finances, everything valuable to us, our 5 physical senses, our self-worth, as well as overindulgence, greed, and the desire to own it all, which can also include people, because we are also now being seen by the powers that be, so to speak, those Capricorn rulers, establishment rulers. We are being seen as the resources. I mean, we have been seeing like that for a long time as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you've only got to go back to kind of feudal system. Nothing's really changed. There's just this kind of air of things being different. It actually hasn't changed. But the way they want to change it now, as we move into this Aquarian age, would be way above and beyond anything like we've ever experienced before, because we would become, our DNA, our personal DNA would become a resource, a data resource in itself, which is already being pushed in certain circles, shall we say. So the main focus of this T-square, though, is the 11th house and everything it represents, where Saturn, the ruler of our 3D domain, who is also the harsh teacher of our actions and equals consequences, resides, or our actions equal consequences, is getting pushed back from Uranus and the North Node combined for freedom over slavery. And this is growing ever stronger at the same time as we experience more and more hardship, restrictions, blockages, censorship. Our rebellious human nature, which cannot ultimately be contained or controlled, is awakening to the reality of our own unlimited potential. Also, with this T-square, with the South and the North Node as well, that is part of the big division that is taking place between the political parties, the genders, all of it is kind of coming under the domain of this Saturn controlling energy, because he's in the sign of Aquarius, he's in the sign of the people. And so it's also kind of saying that there is choice here. We have to choose, which I think is quite interesting as well with this Manway energy. So it's like we choose good over evil kind of energy here. I mean, ultimately, the Uranus energy is about kind of bringing everything together and uniting, but not in a way where we are controlled through that at the same time. Uranus is about freedom of who we are as an individual, having our sovereign rights to say no to something that we don't like and don't agree with. So this is the final battle between the father Uranus and his son Saturn, who sits in the Aquarian house of his father, like he's determined to hold on to his grip on the physical domain and maintain control of we the people. As, according to Greek mythology, Saturn, who's also known as Cronus, usurped the throne from Uranus. So this is, and this is going to reach its climax from the 30th of September, when Saturn gets to the 18 degrees of Aquarius, the same degree as Uranus is already at. So they're not going to come together exact again, but they are both going to reach that 18 degree point. And then Saturn is going to station direct and will start moving away from Uranus again. So but until then, we're in this really it is getting like the pressure is really building. It's like really that kind of restriction and that kind of need for controlling us, because they can see what's happening. They know that Uranus, this Uranus energy, is awakening everybody, because that's what Uranus does. It is the great awakener. And they can see that happening, which is why they've got this great reset. So it's the great reset of Saturn versus the great awakening of Uranus. And so we have to choose for ourselves which side we want to come down on, which side are we going to agree with or allow to happen. And again, I will just say that for me, this is like the final battle in the Bible, where it talks of the like the final battle between good and evil. That is very much how I see it. I see it as the Uranus energy, awakening energy, awakening us to who we are energy, versus the Saturn controlling, who's even kind of seen as a devil type energy, Saturn. That controlling, restricting, but at the end of the day, it's like, do we do that to ourselves? Is it done to us? Do we allow that to happen? So there's also questions around that as well that we need to be asking ourselves at this time. And I think also when Mars goes retrograde, there's going to be a lot of that questioning as well, like courage to speak up and kind of say how it is that you're feeling about what's happening in the world. So at the time when they become square at that 18 degrees, when Saturn moves back into that 18 degrees point, Uranus and the North Node are also going to be sextile Black Moon Lilith, who's also at 18 degrees as well. And she is quincunx or in conjunct Saturn as well. So again, there's this kind of battling of the dark, the shadow, the kind of the need to free something, the need to release something here. But it's going to be an energy of making us feel highly uncomfortable and under pressure to want change, to break free from oppression. As Black Moon Lilith was the original rebellious female who refused to bow down to what was expected of her, and just like her counterpart Eve in the biblical garden, who of course took that fateful bite from the apple of knowledge, causing her to awaken, the feminine has been vilified ever since. So there's still this kind of battle between the masculine and the feminine going on from way back when. So yeah, as I was saying earlier about this kind of unity, it's kind of discovering the unity inside ourselves, the masculine and the feminine that is within all of us. Because we're not all just feminine, we're not just all masculine. We might have the attributes of the male or the female, but within us we have a lot of like we could have a lot of Mars energy, which gives us a lot of drive and a lot of passion, a lot of fire kind of energy. And again, this all comes down to astrology as well, as to placements of our planets, etc., which again is something that needs to be brought into the education system. But I digress. So these transits all taken together are going to add to the activation of this pressing need for our freedoms, regardless of our gender. There is urgency for healing the balance of the divine masculine and feminine energies, as the sun will be opposing the healer of our woundings, Chiron, at 14 degrees Aries, and the moon will be trine in Sagittarius, so the moon's going to be trine Chiron, encouraging us to push past our limited understandings and belief systems, to heal our conditioning and break free of the old restraining limited ideas and discover our sovereign self and path to freedom lies within and not in the hands of others. So the Sabian symbol for this 3 degrees of Libra is the dawn of a new day, reveals everything changed. So this symbol pictures sudden new beginnings happening in one's life. Things can change so quickly that it's hard to believe at first, but eventually it dawns on you that things are different in the light of a new day. Take heart, realise that the darkness is abating. Gradually, let go of what went before and embrace the new opportunities that beckon. This can show someone who moves around a lot or goes through several big transformations in their lives, or have to weather big changes that often come up. However, there's a need to guard against being fickle and wanting to move on too readily when one should perhaps stay with a situation and work on it. That's that kind of mutable cardinal energy combined, I feel, as well. As I was saying, kind of like there's not enough fixed energy there to kind of hold things down. Yeah, there's this kind of desire to move on really quickly. So new perspectives and realizations, waking up to new consciousness or reality, radical shifts and changes, huge changes that erase what went before, and events out of nowhere. So that's the more kind of positive aspects of this degree point. And then the kind of lower vibrational energy, shall we say, is holding on to the past despite all evidence and reason to move on, or being the first one out the door, refusing that things are getting better, unstable behaviour and fickleness. And I think we're seeing a lot of that happening at this time, and I think we're going to see a lot more as we move towards this upcoming solar eclipse. The solar eclipse season is coming in, so it's going to be very interesting to kind of see what's going to take place around us in the world at this time as well. So kind of, I get the feeling of just trying to stay out of things as much as possible, just kind of concentrate on your own little environment, your family, friends. That's not to say don't take note of what's happening, but just don't get involved in what's happening. There's a kind of energy I'm feeling about that. So let's see what the universe wants to say to finish this reading off. Is there any more? Any more for the collective energy at the time of the new moon in Libra? And although I'm not doing this new moon reading on the day of the new moon, or the moon is still in Libra. So the energies are still very pronounced, and they will be for the next 2 weeks, up until the full moon, which is taking place in Aries. Again, at very early stages. Is it? Yeah, early stages of... No, sorry, the later stages. Getting confused. It's that Mercury-Neptune energy. Right, we haven't got any more, so I'm going to put that down and see what we've got. It is imperative you have a stillness within. You cannot go forward without this. That's kind of what I was feeling. Like not getting involved in things, kind of being with it but not of it kind of thing, like recognizing it, knowing it's happening, but kind of staying out of as much turmoil and chaos as is possible at this time. So time was created out of the necessity for physical experience. Time does not exist in the reality of light. That's interesting. So that, I feel, is all about divine timing, kind of like not trying to force situations to happen that aren't ready to happen in the right timing. So I'm going to finish the reading there and say thank you very much for those of you who have come across to listen to what I have to say. I really do appreciate you being here. Thank you very much to those of you who have liked my videos recently. I actually went and had a look and saw that my last astrology reading got almost 50 views. So for me, that's very, very good. So thank you very much for that. And if you want to share my videos, please feel free to do so as well. Pass out my my link to my channel, because this platform kind of shadow bans me. I've been kind of shadow banned for a long time on different platforms as well. I've been kind of doing my thing, shall we say, not just in astrology, but in kind of putting the message out there of kind of trying to wake people up for a long time. So I think I've been kind of like acknowledged on that level, shall we say. So when I kind of put things out, I sometimes just get immediate bans. So I'm not surprised that YouTube has this kind of like lack of if you look for me, you won't find me kind of attitude. So if you want to share, as I was saying, then please do, because that really helps me to grow this channel, which is what I'm really wanting to do at this time, is to grow this channel and to put more messages out there on a much more ongoing basis as well. So I do have a playlist for anybody who's interested of the all the sun signs that I've done previously. There's no times, there's no dates, I just put titles on them, and if that title kind of grabs you and it feels like it resonates with you, it makes sense to you, then take it as your reading regardless of when it was that I did it, because as it says, there is no time, so does not exist in the light. So maybe that's a message for me as well. Anyway, yeah, like, subscribe. Thank you to those who have recently subscribed to this channel as well. I really do appreciate that. And also hit that button if you haven't subscribed yet, and subscribe to my channel. There will be that bell that comes up, and that will tell you as well when my videos are coming out. So lastly, leave a comment and let me know what you feel about my videos and what I have to say about things as well. A little bit on the controversial side at times, but that's kind of where I'm at. So if this isn't for you, then it's not for you. But if it is, and if you know like-minded people who might be interested in hearing what I have to say, then please do share it. And have a wonderful new moon. I hope your partnerships and relationships go smoothly, and hopefully I will see you all again next time. And please take good care of yourselves till then.